I just wanted to go through and demo the latest version of Polar. I just revamped the way we capture documents. So captured documents are basically HTML pages. So this would be an HTML page, and then the difference being that this is actually a cached version of the content on the site, which means that we can do, since we have a static version, we can do annotations and update page marks. A lot harder to do that with content that's constantly updating and ads are rotating through it and so forth. Now this is contrasted with a PDF, which is also a static document, but it's PDF and there's individual pages, and so totally different type of content. And so in order to use it, it's pretty straightforward. Here's an article from Bloomberg, and so if we want to capture it in Polar, all we have to do is just copy the URL, and we just do File, Capture Web Page, and what you see is basically this little mini web browser that comes up, and it's not as pretty as Chrome. In fact, it doesn't have back and forth navigation buttons and refresh buttons, but it's pretty good. I'm getting there. And so to use it, you just go into the URL bar and you just paste the URL and you just hit enter, and it will load that URL. And then I think immediately the most obvious thing is that the content is in a totally different format than this static web page. So this is in long form, and then this is in sort of full page form, and it's fully responsive content. So as you're changing the page, you get more data on screen. And then so actually the interesting thing is what I'm doing with Polar is that this content is actually rendered as if you were using an iPad. Actually, that's literally what we're doing. So we're emulating an iPad so that turns out that sites basically have versions of their sites if the site is responsive, specifically for tabular content. So it's much easier to read. It's vertical content. It's not you have to deal with ads and sidebars and so forth. So you can see the sidebar content over here. And then in this version, you can't annotate it, but in order to annotate it, you just go over here to the top right and you click this capture button, and then you can approve the page. So one of the things that we noticed is that with sites like the Washington Post, you would have to go through, and some of the URLs actually basically just didn't work. So you get this thing, where it comes up and you got to, hit, you have to actually log into the site. I don't want to do any of this, but sometimes they'll let you view one article. So let's just do that now and just see what happens. Yeah, okay, so they let us view one article, but sometimes there's an expand button at the bottom that says, if you want to read the article, click this button to expand. And then actually what it did there is it loaded the AMP version of the site. And in this situation, the AMP version was actually not as good as the original one. I actually thought the original one was better than the AMP version. AMP meaning accelerated mobile pages. So Polar is smart enough to usually the AMP version is better because it's designed for mobile, but this one isn't. You can see that the margins are kind of big. So I need to think about that. What I was thinking about doing is up here on the right, having some options to allow the user to control the device it's emulating. So maybe you can shrink the size of the tablet, make it expand it, maybe use a normal web browser, and then also maybe toggle AMP or not AMP. That would be a nice feature. But once you're generally satisfied with the way the page looks, you just hit this capture button, and then it will save the content locally. Oh, that's interesting. Looks like that's a bug. It didn't render oh, there it goes. It took a second. I don't know. Didn't know why I did that, but it didn't get that image there. That's interesting. So I gotta track that down and figure out why that is. But maybe if I reload it, maybe it'll come through. Nope. That's not good. Well, that's a bug. But it saves the page properly, except for that image, and then you can read it. And then, of course, you can go through and highlight it and stuff. And then if you go back to your repository, it shows up there. But I'm not going to read that. So this is a new feature. You can go through and you can flag things, and then they get hidden automatically. Or you can or that was archive, and then you can flag things, and then you can say flagged only, and you can hide excuse me, hide and unhide hide archived. So, um, so it's getting pretty stable at this point, and so I definitely recommend maybe giving it a try and playing with it. Um,